So let's figure out now how we can access more than one element in a matrix. So in the previous videos, we accessed elements in a matrix, but it was only one element at a time. So x of 9 gives me 13 because that's the 13th element in this list. We know now that it's column major order first, so that is the 9th element in this matrix. If we wanted to do x of 1, 3, then that's row 1, column 3, so it should return 3. That's fine, but sometimes we want to actually work out, or we want to access data for a whole row or an entire column. 1, 6, 11. We want the first column in this matrix. We want maybe only 7, 8, 12, and 13. How do we do that? Well, we do it in a similar way using row column syntax. So again, so let's do an example. Say I wanted to find the, let's say the second row, second column, and third column. So I wanted to find these two elements in the matrix. Then what I do is I also say x, and now I've got rows and columns, and I want to put in terms of rows and columns, the indices, so the numbers representing the rows and columns that I want to access. So if I wanted to find 7, 8, then that resides in row 2, and its columns 2 and 3. So I've got one row here. I want to access row 1, but now I don't want to access just one column, I want to access more than one column. So how do I group that together? I group it with a matrix. So this is why matrices are so important. I group them as a list of indices representing the columns that I want to access. So in my case, I want to access column 2 and column 3. So the notation looks slightly different, but it's still following the same rules. I first find the row number, and then I find the column number. If I give the row or the column as an array or as a vector of more than one index, then what will happen is it will return all of the elements corresponding to the elements you put inside for the columns or the rows. So if I do this, then I get, oh sorry, I put row 1, so I wanted row 2. So now I want row 2 because I wanted 7 or 8, so that's row 1. Row 1, columns 1 and 2 would be 2 or 3. Row 2, columns 2 and 3 should be 7 and 8. And there we go, 7 and 8. Say I wanted, let's do that. Say I wanted element 9 and 14. Well, that's one column spanned over 2 rows. So it's column 4, row 2 and 3. So if I put in x, then what should my syntax be? It should be I want to find 2 rows now and 1 column. So now I've got an array for the first parameter, which is the rows, and then I want column 4 as a second. And what rows do I need to put in? I need to put in 2, 3. If I do this, then I get 9 and 14. So that, and so I can also do blocks. I say I wanted to find the first, I wanted to find 2 to 4 and all rows. Well, let's do the first 2 rows. Then I could do x. I want to do rows 1 and 2. I want to do rows 1 and 2. And I want to do the columns from 2 to 4. So I could do 2 ways. I could manually type out each column, so I could do 1, 2, 3, 4. That would give me the answer. I could also create a little matrix automatically using the colon operator, so I could say 2, 4. Yeah, and I could probably even do linspace. So let me try to do linspace. Linspace 2, 2, 4, 3. Yeah, it gives me the same number. This also works. It doesn't have to work for just continuous blocks either. I could try access. So let me clear again. Let me try now access 1, 6, 3, 8, and 5, 10. So that's the first column, the third column, and the fifth column. And the way that I do that is again using the row column syntax. So I'll start with the rows. What are the rows I want to access? I want to access the first 2 rows. 1, 6, 3, 8, 5, 10. So it's the first 2 rows, it's rows 1 and 2. And then the columns, what columns do I want to access? Well, it's only the first, it's only the third, and it's only the fifth. So I only put 1, 3, 5. And now I get a submatrix only containing those elements. So that's just some basic MATLAB syntax for accessing blocks of data in a matrix. The correct syntax is actually called array slicing, because I'm slicing a matrix into smaller pieces, and that's just the terminology that people use. So if you Google it, you'll find a lot of syntax for other programming languages, Python, C, and so on, all do different types of array slicing. But MATLAB is quite nice because I can just enter in the columns and the rows in a very logical way, and it will give me the result.